Good evening, everybody. So I know this is a pretty late show. I don't. I wasn't aiming to do it this late at night. I was aiming to do it a lot earlier in the day, but I got distracted by some other things. So you're getting tonight's show late, but sorry about that. I'm going to try to get next show out at an earlier time, maybe more like 8 or 8:30. But with that said, even though this is a somewhat awkward time, I'm still going to do a show tonight, and let's hope it's a good one. So, the war in Palestine is continuing to rage on. The kill counts, the kill count of Israel is continuing to grow, and the number of war crimes committed by Israel is continuing to grow. So, I was watching this CNN interview today, and this Israeli soldier said, "This is a war on civilians." So they're not even trying to hide it anymore. They're flat out saying, "Yeah, we're killing civilians. This is a war against civilians. This is Israelis." I'm not paraphrasing. I'm not making stuff up. I'm not lying. An Israeli soldier actually said on CNN, in a CNN interview, this is a war on civilians. I so today I watched, so I'm going to talk a lot about this later because this was an awful garbage train wreck of an interview, but it was Pierce Morgan's interview with Ben Shapiro. Complete filth, but two terrible people, two deeply immoral people. But I wanted to talk about what something Ben Shapiro said. Let me see if I can quote it. "You'll never hear me say this again. At least the National Socialists. At least the National Socialists didn't try to hide what they were doing. At least the National Socialists tried to hide what they were doing. Hamas is open about killing women and children. The It's a nonsensical statement on several levels, but that's what Israel is. That's what Israel is doing. Israel is openly saying this is a war on civilians. This is a war on women and children. There was that interview with the ex-prime minister of Israel from Sky News, and the Sky News interviewer, who's doing a very professional, good interview, said, "Oh, you cut off all the electricity in the Gaza Strip, but what about all the babies on ventilators? Aren't you sentencing those babies to their deaths?" And then the prime minister threw a big temper tantrum and wouldn't answer a single more question throughout the interview, and just went on this big temper tantrum throughout the interview. So Israel is openly saying war on babies, war on Gentile babies, war on Arab babies, and they're open about this. They so yeah, look where your golden boy is now, Shapiro. So I also watched Piers Morgan's interview with, I believe his name is pronounced Mohammed Hijab, if I'm not wrong. Is it not? But Mr. Hijab sort of told Piers Morgan, because Piers Morgan is simping for Israel right now. Piers Morgan is standing for Israel right now. If so, there was that. So Piers Morgan is Irish, and he was saying, "Oh, Mr. Hijab was saying, oh, there was an Irish terrorist organization for a while. If that Irish terrorist organization had hijacked jumbo jet and blown up an English city or something like that. Like if the Irish terrorist organization did something terrible to English people. I can't remember the exact hypothetical scenario, but it was something along those lines. Would you be okay with it if England said, we're going to flatten Ireland, we're going to kill all the Irish people? And then Piers Morgan, he didn't say no. Believe that? He didn't say, no, I would not be okay with that. That would be wrong to kill all the Irish people. He didn't say that. He just like wouldn't answer the question. He was saying, oh, well, that hasn't happened yet. But what if it did happen? Oh, but it hasn't happened yet. But what if it did happen? Oh, but it hasn't happened yet. And on and on and on, back and forth for like a long time. So here's what I think was going on there. Piers Morgan understands that what he's supporting is evil. He understands that Israel is evil. He understands that Zionism is evil. But he's thinking about that, and he's realizing with that false scenario, he realized that he's a hypocrite because he's okay with genocide against Arabs, but he wouldn't be okay against genocide against his own people, Irishmen. So he realized he's a hypocrite. So he just tried to pretend that this didn't happen. And that term I used, flatten it, I believe that was the term Mr. Hijab used. That term didn't come out of nowhere. An IDF member, someone with actual power in this real life scenario, said we should flatten the Gaza Strip. In his own words, we should flatten the Gaza Strip. Can you believe that? There were so many things wrong with that awful, awful interview, but Piers Morgan is just a joke right now. Piers Morgan has so many things wrong with him, and he's a coward. He's a race traitor. And he's a terrible person. He began the interview with Shapiro, our little Benny boy, saying, oh, all the decapitated babies. Hamas decapitated all these Israeli Jewish babies. But that didn't even happen. And I'm sure he knows it. No babies were decapitated by Hamas. That never happened. This is just a Zionist lie, a Zionist created urban legend to distract from the true horrors, which is what Israel is doing to Gentile people. But Piers Moore, and then in the other video, Mohammed Hijab pointed it out, like, you just said a flat out lie. You just lied to the English and American people, because a lot of people in America and England watch this show. And then Piers Morgan responded. He said, no, I didn't say that. But he very clearly did. Oh boy, a Zionist is lying. Imagine my shock, to borrow a phrase from Paul Joseph Watson. So I'm not sure. I think Mohammed Hijab might be a liberal, so probably wrong on a lot of issues, but I don't know. I don't actually know who he is aside from this interview and what I saw in this specific interview. So maybe he's based. I suspect the two of us would disagree on a lot of things, but he said a lot of good things in this interview, and I think he did a good job of holding his ground in this interview, though I wish he would have been more aggressive with Piers Morgan, because Piers Morgan was being extremely rude to him. He was getting in his face. He was interrupting him with this complete poppycock, nothing but garbage, just complete nonsense with no basis in reality. So I think he should have been more aggressive. He should have said, "Shut up, Piers Morgan. Shut up, you stupid Shabbos goy. I'm the one who's talking, and I'm not going to put up with your Zionist poppycock." That's how I would have spoken to him. I think he should have. I think he was too easy on Piers Morgan. I think he should have been harsher. I think he should have been meaner. That's my take. So as I've said, all of mainstream media is doing a terrible job with this. Fox News, everyone, they're all doing a terrible job. And Fox News, they said finish them, and they didn't say finish Hamas. They said finish the Palestinians, finish the Gaza Strip, finish the civilians there. So Fox News is openly supporting what is quite likely going to be the largest genocide of this century committed by Jews. And Breitbart, one of the main people of Breitbart, and I'm not going to go through the mental energy of trying to remember his name because this is just a stupid, annoying Jew. So why should I care about what his name is? He said, "I'm breaking Jewish law by tweeting this tweet out, but Israel should wipe out Gaza." They're not trying to hide the fact that they're genocidal. Ben Shapiro, oh, well, at least the National Social. Let me see if I can do a Ben Shapiro impression. Oh, well, at least the National Socialists attempted to hide their war crimes. The Nuremberg had to dug full lots of files to figure out the true extent of their war crimes, while Hamas is at the open about it. All of mainstream media is openly calling for a genocide. And they're openly endorsing a horrible genocide that's being committed by Jews against Gentile people. So all of mainstream media is, and even mainstream media, conservative media, they're all, or at least the bad conservatives of media, not good conservatives like us, like me, but they're all endorsing genocide of large swaths of Gentile people by Jews. So when you look at Breitbart, Daily Wire, Rubin Report, PragerU, Fox News, CNN, MSNBC, and several others, what do all of these different organizations have in common? They're all run by Jews. They're all run by the Jew. And they're all supporting Jews massacring Gentile people right now. How curious. Imagine my shock. Imagine my shock that Dave Rubin, the Jew who wouldn't shut up about freedom of speech for years, just endorsed France banning pro-Palestine protests. Imagine my shock. The Ben Shapiro interview was so bad. So Ben Shapiro kept saying, murdering children, but Israel is murdering children right now. Israel, and listen very closely, listen very well, because this is not a lie. This is not a alternative fact. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is stated fact. Israel is murdering children. Israel is murdering babies. Israel is murdering women. Israel is murdering elderly people. Why does Ben Shapiro not care about that, but cares about the Jewish children being killed? Because Jews don't care about Gentiles. The life of a Gentile doesn't matter to a Jew. Why should it? We're just stupid, filthy goyim. Ben Shapiro was saying, oh, we need to remember that. So I think, I'm trying to remember what he said. He was saying, the West is one of the most, it was something to this extent. The West is one of the most narcissistic places in the world because we all think everyone else thinks like us. We all think everyone else thinks like us, but they don't think like us. What could possibly get you to murder children? What could possibly get you to rape women? Um, oh, you know what, Mr. Shapiro? Oh, let's think about that. Oh, what could get us to commit those crimes? Oh, yeah. What if our land was stolen from beneath our feet? What if in the 1940s, the land that was our home, that belongs to us, was sold off by England to people who had no right to have it and no right to step foot on it, no right to live on it, even though it's our land, and they didn't have anything to do with it. I don't know, maybe if you lived in a society where you were under laws where there was mass scale, maybe if you were someone who was living in an ethno-state who wasn't the ethnicity of the ethno-state. Oh, maybe if you were a black person living in a white ethno-state, if you were an Asian person living in an Arab ethno-state, or an Arab living in a Jewish ethno-state, then maybe you could be tried to do something horrible. Maybe if you lived in a society that didn't grant you rights based on your race, an immutable characteristic, didn't grant you citizenship based on your race, an immutable characteristic, and would uh, would destroy your home, in this case your apartment building, to build a new freeway without care for you, just make you homeless to build a freeway because you're not part of the ethno state and you're not a citizen because of the way you were born, because of your immutable characteristic. And what I'm describing Israel doing is a fact. It's not an opinion, it's a fact. It's a cold hard fact. It's a cold hard fact that Israel is an ethno state. It's a cold hard fact that Gentile people are not allowed to become citizens of Israel, that Gentile people are not allowed to get the rights because of their race. It's a cold hard fact that Israel is just a occupied, stolen piece of Palestine that shouldn't exist. Well, I guess not stolen. I guess shouldn't exist is more of an opinion, but it's awful. It's awful. Oh, and by the way, Ben Shapiro's little beard thing in that interview, it looked awful. Just go shave. Your little beard looks almost as stupid as that little black hat you're always wearing. It's ugly. I remember he said, if Israel put down all its weapons, every Jew would be killed. If Palestine put down all its weapons, uh, no one would be killed. The killings would stop. Uh, yeah, sure, Mr. Shapiro. Uh-huh. I believe you. I remember many, many years ago, this was I this was long before I ever got into politics. Um, Ben Shapiro did a gun control debate with Piers Morgan. Um, and and he said, "You're standing on the graves of dead children," which, to be fair, Piers Morgan was. He was doing that. But that's what Ben Shapiro is doing right now. Ben Shapiro is standing on the graves of dead children right now. So what people aren't forgetting is that Jews are the ones who started this. This wasn't started by the Arabs. This was started by the Jews. So why are we not forgetting that this is occupied territory? Israel is just a part of Palestine that's been occupied by Jews. So if right now or a few months ago or whatever, uh, Ukraine started firing missiles into Russia, um, or let's be more specific. A group of Ukrainians flew into a Russian concert on paragliders and then massacred Russian people. Then all of the West would celebrate this as Ukraine fighting back against a country that's richer than it and more powerful than it. Um, oh, the underdog is fighting back, and all throughout the West, this would be celebrated. But a country that's being oppressed violently, Palestine, tries to fight back against its oppressors, and now it's a tragedy. Now it's a tragedy. Now we need revenge. We need revenge against the Arabs for this. We need revenge against the Gentiles for this, for attacking uh, his infallibleness, the Jew. Joe Biden. So our president, Joe Biden, is right now putting more funding into Israel. They're increasing Israeli aid. What the heck? It's already bad enough. We're already giving too much to Israel as enough. And Joe Biden is saying we need to do everything we can to help Israel. Shut up. There's large scale protests throughout the Middle East over the fact that Israel just blew up a bunch of hospitals in the Gaza Strip. So in Turkey and I believe Egypt, if I'm not wrong, there's all these protests. Why aren't there more protests? They banned pro-Palestine protests in France. Do them anyways. Do them anyways. The French laws, these French laws are ridiculous. Just ignore them. Okay, so I think I'm going to end this video pretty soon, but before I do end it, I would like to read to you a quote. If you're not careful, the newspapers will have you hating the people who are being oppressed and loving the people who are doing the oppressing. Malcolm X. Now, could I write a list from here to Japan on all the things Malcolm X and I would disagree on? You betcha. But this is a very telling quote of our situation right now. Right now, the newspaper, so we live in a world where there are people being oppressed, Gentile people, Gentiles, and there are people who are doing the oppressing, Jews. But right now, the media is doing its hardest, its darn hardest, to make you attempt to make you love the Jews and hate the Gentile people. They've done so much work to make you hate Arabs and love Jews. Before Israel was given, in the name of establishing an ethno-state for the Jews between the mid to late Victorian era, well into the 1930s, were constantly doing terrorism. They were terrorizing English people all the time, and it was like every Jew was a terrorist. But no one thinks of Jews as being terrorists. Everyone thinks of Muslims as being terrorists. This is complete nonsense. And what Ben Shapiro was saying, oh, think about all the dead children. I would like to read to you again the quotes from our last episode. The Jew cries out as he strikes you. Or how about this one? The Jew will always tell you he's being oppressed, but never tell you why he's being oppressed, what he did to be oppressed. This is the same situation. Ben Shapiro is whining about all of this massacring, but he's not saying why the massacring is happening. He said, oh, it's just Jew hatred, as if there's no reason to hate the Jews. People just wake up hating Jews. People are just born with an innate hatred for Jews. The Palestinian people, the Palestinians don't hate Jews because of no reason, because Jew hatred is just a plague on the world. They hate Jews because Jews have been doing terrible things to them since the 40s and even before that. They hate Jews because Jews stole their land and Jews are destroying their apartment buildings to build freeways. You always hear people say, oh, the Jews were kicked out of England in 1290, but you never hear why they were kicked out. They were kicked out because what they're doing is they would get the coins, because coins were made out of precious metals at this time in England, and they would carve off the edges and then pass them on. So it would become this pile of precious metals. They got banned from England for doing that. But they never tell you that that's why they got banned. Because everyone wants to talk about the oppression of Jews, but no one wants to talk about why Jews have been oppressed. Everyone wants to talk about Jews being massacred. Everyone wants to talk about dead Jews, but no one wants to talk about why so many Jews have been massacred, why so many Jews were killed, why so many Jews were murdered. Because no one wants to acknowledge how many horrible things Jews have done. Hey, Ben Shapiro. Hey, Mr. Shapiro. How about this? How about instead of only talking about what's happening to Jews. You talk about why that stuff is happening to Jews, why it's happening to Jews. Talk about that for a change. How about? He's in his interview, he implied that there's never been any justification for hatred against Jews in all of history. He was saying, oh, from the Pharaoh to Hitler to Hamas, uh, everyone hates Jews, but he doesn't say why everyone hates Jews. He never gave a reason. He just implied that anti-Semitism just pops out of nowhere. Because, of course, anti-Semitism would pop out of nowhere in every country from in all of history, or at least ever since Jesus' time. Why is that? Why is there always anti-Semitism? Why does everyone in all of history hate Jews? Just because they just hate Jews. They just woke up hating Jews one day. Well, isn't that convenient for Jews? We're not hated because of anything we did. We're just hated because of no reason at all. Well, what a poor soul. What poor folks. I think I'm going to call it good for tonight's episode, and there's stuff I want to get off my chest, but it's really late in the night, so I think I'm just going to get that off my chest in another video. But good night.